I'd like to welcome and introduce our first speaker. He's a guy who I got to know a little bit over the phone in the recent months. He came to me very highly recommended by someone who I trust greatly, and he says, "Oh, you got Chris. This is fabulous. This is fabulous." So, Chris Tyrrell. Chris, was I close? Was I close? Close. Tyrrell. Chris Tyrrell. He's been in finance, fintech, and crypto for more than 15 years. He's an OG in crypto. He most recently served as the senior advisor in legal matters and compliance matters at blockchain.com. Presently, Chris is consulting, advising several projects, and is both invested in and an advisor to a number of digital and non-digital asset companies. And he'll be making an announcement very soon. Chris is in high demand, actually, everyone. He'll be making an announcement very soon as to the company that will win his great skill set. He joined blockchain from Goldman Sachs, where he was the head of digital assets compliance. He worked at the New York law firm, you're going to have to help me with this one, Cadwalader, close. Where he worked with billions of dollars of assets, bringing about financial transactions, representing banks and other financial institutions. Chris has his BA in Humanities from the University of Texas, a law degree from the University of Virginia School of Law, and is currently completing a master's degree in practical ethics at Oxford University. Chris and his wife, Suzanne, are the parents of 9 children. Please welcome Chris Tyrrell.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor. Thanks, Matt. It's an honor to be with you. It's an honor, Matt, to be at the first crypto conference where I don't feel overdressed. I'd like to thank everyone for putting on dresses and suits. For those of you who don't know, crypto conferences, like a collar is a really big deal. So I appreciate you getting dressed up for the event. I want to start my talk by talking about the title. Which you can see, well, you can't see up on the screen, which I can see here, the title. When you get asked to give a keynote talk, especially the first one of the things you think about is how do you set the context and the theme for the rest of everything that's going to happen over the next couple of days. And so the first thing I did to create my title is I stole the subtitle. I mean, that's Matt's title for what this conference is about, right? It's what should Catholics make of cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and Web 3.0. But that wasn't provocative enough, and I wanted to provoke you. And so my original proposed title was very different than this. It was, Blessed are the blockchains, period. Just blessed are the blockchains. And the feedback I got was that it's really risky to combine the sacred and the profane, and that, some people might be offended by the first crypto beatitude. And so we radically changed it to add a question mark. Then it was, Blessed are the blockchains? But we wanted to make sure you knew that this was a dialogue about a question that's very controversial, so then we added an exclamation point and another question mark to really round it out. So that's what I'm going to talk about now. Blessed are the blockchains? Blessed are the blockchains. I wanted that to be the title because I really want to provoke you, because there's something that's going to happen over the next 2 days that is sort of a conversion process. As you learn more about crypto, or as you dive deeper into Catholic views on crypto and blockchain and Web3, you're going to have to integrate those. You're going to have to create a synthesis of your role in the world as a Catholic and as a follower of Jesus Christ, and all of the things that these technologies are presenting you with, and potentially, if you decide to engage with them or study them or even develop them, you're going to have to deal with the questions that you will have to ask yourself as a follower of Jesus when you're trying to engage with crypto and blockchain and Web3. And that's a tough integration. Self-reflection is one of the toughest parts of the Christian walk. And so I wanted it to provoke you. So, blessed are the blockchains. That's what we're going to talk about. Why do we need to ask this question? We need to ask this question because rapid technological change has social consequences. We saw that in Web 1, we've seen that in Web 2, and we're going to see that in Web 3. And so we would be remiss not to, as Catholics, examine these technologies as they are being developed, as they're coming out, and performing a thorough analysis of our engagement with them and how we should do that. And so what I'm going to do in the rest of this, I hope 30 minutes from now, this is what you're thinking about over the next couple of days. As you're fed, as you are fed from all of the experts in Catholic philosophy, all of the experts in cryptocurrency, NFTs, all of the technologies that Matt mentioned earlier, that you can't stop thinking about synthesizing that and integrating that into your own Catholic walk. The unity between your calling as a Catholic and your vocare crypto, your calling to be involved with, to possibly develop crypto technologies, to use them, to study them, crypto and blockchain and Web3. That's what we need for this technology to really flourish and to really create human flourishing. The good news is that this thinking isn't going to stop 30 minutes from now. You're going to have 2 days filled with speakers who are going to poke and prod and give you new things to think about and integrate into the synthesis. So this is a tall order. I have 30 minutes. I have 25 minutes in which to try to synthesize a framework for thinking about this for you and give you some things to think about over the next couple of days. So here's the roadmap. Here's what we're going to do. We've talked about the synthesis. I'm going to talk a little bit about how this technology itself is not good or bad. It's neutral technology. And then I'm going to propose an applied ethics of the common good for this technology. I'm then going to kind of walk you really, really quickly, and I have to say really quickly because every card I keep flipping could be its own talk. I'm going to flip really quickly through crypto and blockchain and Web3 and some positives and negatives to give context for the conversation. And then we're going to close by going in detail through a method that I think everyone in this room could use over the next couple days and into the future to do this synthesis. So let's jump right into it. So my proposal is an applied ethic of the common good. Why do we need an applied ethic of the common good? Because we believe that we're put on the earth for a particular purpose, to know, love, and serve God with all our minds, all our heart, and all our strength. And that infuses everything, and that needs to infuse these new technologies in order for them to truly lead to human flourishing. So that's what's different about this conference. It's not just the suits and the dresses. That's what's different about this conference than every other conference on crypto and blockchain and Web3. What's different about this conference is we are trying to look at it through the lens of being Catholic followers of Jesus and his church. And so the question that I hope is different in your mind as you're thinking about these things here versus just thinking about them as technologies is that my approach to them should be different because I'm Catholic. My approach to these should be different because of the beliefs I have about the universe and my purpose in it and other people's purpose in it. So just because the technology itself is neutral doesn't mean that our use of it is neutral. And before we jump into actually talking about a framework for thinking about these things, I wanted to talk a little more in each of the 3 areas that this conference is trying to address, a little more about the ways in which people are currently talking about them and certain ways of thinking about their positives and negatives. This can't be comprehensive. This is just examples and samples, but I hope it'll give you some concrete things to think about as we then talk about a framework for analyzing it. So let's start with crypto, and let's start with the positives of crypto. Many people talk about crypto in the context of crypto enabling greater human liberty. That crypto is going to give individuals more power over their assets, more power over the way in which they store value in the world, and more control over that. It's going to take it away from banks and banking systems and potentially regulators, as Matt alluded to earlier. People talk about crypto as if it's going to increase access to wealth. They talk about the democratization of capital. They talk about it lowering the impact of inflation or the depreciation of fiat currencies. This idea of decentralized finance for the masses. And they talk about a flourishing of charity due to crypto. You'll hear from speakers later who talk about how crypto can be used in and for charitable purposes, how it increases the transparency of charity, and how it reduces the friction for people aggregating capital and resources together to do good work in the world. And those are all great things. And many of us are pursuing different crypto projects because of those things. But there are also negatives to crypto. And some of the ones that have already been talked about are the fact that some forms of crypto can lead to greater centralization, greater control, greater monitoring of people and their activities, and potentially manipulation of those activities through their design. Crypto creates the risk of over-centralization, the idea that DeFi is really CeFi, or the massive centralization of finance, and the risk that that creates. And obviously, as has been very, very present in the news over the past couple of weeks, crypto is used for fraud and scams, theft by deception, theft by accounting, and selfishness and greed run rampant. Crypto is the culture of Lamborghinis, right? One of the common crypto phrases is Lambos to the moon. All right, so we're going to pause on crypto for a second, and we're going to talk about blockchain. Now, blockchain, you have to use a blockchain to do crypto. I'm not going to go into that. That would take more than 25 minutes by itself. But I'm talking about non-crypto uses of blockchain, people who are using blockchain for other things. And there are an incredible number of great things that you can use blockchains for. First of all, what's a blockchain? The easy way to think about a blockchain, if you haven't experienced a blockchain, is it's an immutable, resilient database of things. That's a massive oversimplification of what a blockchain is, but it's a good way of thinking about what it can do, because it can help us know more than we do now about the provenance of things, where things come from, where they've been, what they've touched. And knowing things about the provenance of things is actually really, really helpful in the world. One of the examples about a really creative use of blockchain to improve the quality of things is tomatoes at Walmart. Walmart worked with a big consulting group to actually create a blockchain product that tracked all the tomatoes that ended up in a certain set of Walmarts from the minute they were picked in the field all the way through until they were in the Walmart. And you might say, well, that's very interesting, but what good is knowing where all your tomatoes come from? Well, it turns out that's really, really useful. This saved Walmart tens of millions of dollars in litigation expenses over people suing them because they got sick after they ate a tomato at a Walmart. This helped Walmart actually prevent the illnesses of people who got the next set of tomatoes because they could figure out where all the tomatoes came from, and they could stop people from eating tomatoes that would make them sick. And there are other bigger examples. Blockchains can prevent conflict assets from existing in the world. People who acquire gold or minerals or other assets by war and violence. Blockchains can help us understand where those assets come from, who they've been with, who's owned them over a period of time, and can help us keep conflict assets out of the world. Blockchains help improve logistics and can stop food waste. So there's a lot of great things. You're going to hear a lot of people talking about the great things that blockchain can do over the next couple of days. But there's also the negatives that come with more tracking of everything. Blockchains have the same problem that any permanent database has. Anytime we store lots of information about what people are doing or where things are going, there's room for abuse of that. And then finally, I want to talk about some examples of the metaverse and Web3 and the positives and negatives that people have been talking about already and that we should think about as Catholics about the metaverse and Web3. The metaverse and Web3 generally can be thought of as an immersive digital environment. And that immersion can come in several forms. Many of you have tried in the hallway. I saw people wearing glasses that immerse you in a video environment and potentially an audio environment. These can increase remote human engagement, the ability of humans to engage with each other even when they can't be in the same space, which can add to human flourishing. One of my friends is working on a company that is trying to make globally available in-person university education for the masses, but they won't actually be in a university. They'll be in a virtual environment in which all of them are in a university. We can educate the mass, more people, lift the poor. The metaverse and Web3 is a universally available, or at least a much more broadly available form of travel. We can allow people all over the world who can't necessarily afford to get on a plane and go to see the great cathedrals of the world, to see the great cathedrals of the world and experience in them and have the religious experience of the beauty and goodness of them without leaving where they are. But again, the metaverse and Web3 are also more trackable. There's more information about what people are doing on them. Some of them are potentially insecure, and there's a risk that they can cause a loss of freedom and privacy. They can be dehumanizing. I don't know if anyone has seen the shopping violence videos, metaverse shopping violence videos. Google that later, it'll be dangerous. And if you go look at these are people who are walking around in a store in the metaverse, so they're not actually walking, they're digital people walking around, and they just decide to start ripping apart the store, beating all the customers, and doing crazy things that we certainly wouldn't want people doing in real life. And the question that we need to ask ourselves is it good for them to be able to do that in the metaverse? How should we think about that? What should we do? And then finally, metaverses can become an alternate or a fantasy reality that takes people out of God's reality and allows them to create a reality of their own that is not good for them as human persons. All right, so that's a lot. That's what we're starting with. That's the conversation starter. That's where we're beginning. How should we think about that? We have this sample of good and bad. It's not comprehensive, but I'm going to try to now talk everyone through a comprehensive framework, a potential comprehensive framework. And I would love, by the way, I've put my, at the end, I'll put up the title screen again. It's got my email address and my Twitter. Talk to me. I would love to hear feedback on this because this is a work in progress. This is the first conference, but this is also the first speech about this subject at the first conference, and I would love, I covet your feedback. So, I think our Holy Father, Pope Francis, provided us with a way of thinking about this framework. In September of 2019, two Vatican dicasteries hosted a conference called The Common Good in the Digital Age at the Vatican. And Pope Francis outlined what he asserted were the conditions for true technological progress. And he said this, I quote, "A better world is possible thanks to technology and technological progress if this is accompanied by an ethic inspired by a vision of the common good, an ethic of freedom, responsibility, and fraternity that is capable of fostering the full development of people in their relations with others and the whole of creation." And we're going to spend the rest of our time together. I'm going to try to unpack that statement for us and give us a way of thinking about these technologies. So, what did he say? An ethic inspired by a vision of the common good that has freedom, responsibility, fraternity, and can foster the full development of people with respect to other people and with respect to creation. I think everyone should think about this as a checklist for their analysis of these technologies in the world. And when you're looking at the checklist and determining whether to check the box that the thing you're doing, the technology you're engaging with, the technology you're developing is in line with Catholic principles, you should look to see if it has the opposites of those things. So, look for technologies or technological impact or technological use of these technologies that reduces human freedom, that eschews or avoids responsibility, that breaks our bonds of sisterhood or brotherhood, that doesn't lead to full human development, that ignores essentials of the human person, that ignores human dignity, that harms creation or the environment. And as you're thinking about these technologies in the world and how you as a Catholic should think about them, we should do this analysis so that we may have life and have it to the full. Because all of this idea of checking some boxes is really to say that we know what the human purpose is in the world, and we want everyone to live in and flourish in it. So step one is we have to apply this framework. And what do you have to do over the next couple days and into the future in order to be able to apply this framework? You need knowledge, you need discernment, and then you need to take action. The good news is, for those first two, you're going to get some heavy inputs over the next couple of days. You're going to get people who are serious thinkers about these technologies, serious doers of these technologies, serious thinkers about Catholic philosophy as applied to our action in the world, and they're going to feed you with knowledge. They're going to feed you with some wisdom in order to help you make choices. But it's only you that can then make those choices. Should you stay on course with what you're doing with these technologies? Should you alter that course, or should you abandon that course? So looking at opposites also leads us to think about our opposition. Who is our enemy when we think about these things that we want to do, this good that we want to do in the world with these technologies? First, I'm going to tell you who it's not. Our enemy is not traditional finance or banks or bankers or the banking system. Our enemy is not big tech or Big Brother. Our enemy is not regulators who overreach. Our enemy is not legislators who don't understand. Our enemy is not this giant panoply of bad actors, Ponzi schemers, sanctioned oligarchs, misguided crypto CEOs, or state-sponsored hackers. It's none of these. None of these are our enemies or our opposition in trying to do this good in the world. St. Paul reminds us, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the cosmic power of this present darkness, against spiritual forces of evil in heavenly places. That's our enemy. Everyone I just mentioned before, they are our mission field. They are those to whom we must witness with our Catholic view of the world implemented in this technology. We must witness to truth. We must be salt and light in this place with these technologies. So, now that we know what we're dealing with a little bit, now that we know who our enemy is a little bit, how do you fight that enemy? How do you go into battle to do good in the context of these technologies? Well, the first thing is you have to maintain your spiritual defenses. You have to maintain your assets of wisdom. This is praying. This is fasting. This is the lessons of the fathers of old. This is not new stuff. We're applying it to new stuff, but it's the same stuff. It's almsgiving. It's receiving the sacraments, especially the sacrament of reconciliation. I mean, how can we free others from the bondage of a bad banking system if we're not doing the things we need to do to free ourselves from the bondage of sin? We have to be in a particular place in order to go into this new space and do what our Lord calls us to do. Finally, and Matt alluded to this earlier, we can't do this alone. We need a framework of the common good. We need a conversion to fight the enemy, but we also need a community of people to do it with, to hold us accountable, and whom we will hold accountable. So find your community. Seek out others who will join you in this journey of learning and knowledge and wisdom. Seek other people who are not pursuing technology for technology's sake, but for what technology can do for the human person. That person, the next person you need to meet in that community might be sitting right next to you right now. This conference is the first gathering of this community. Matt mentioned that people who'd been involved in crypto were very excited to have a conference that was called a Catholic crypto conference. Although I saw one comment on LinkedIn that said this conference would make Jesus cry because of combining an ancient religion and a new technology. But I don't think that's true. I was at Catholic Family Land with my family over the summer, and I met my first Catholic in crypto. Okay, my second Catholic in crypto. I met my second Catholic in crypto, the first Catholic who I didn't already know who was in crypto. And he said to me, "You're the first Catholic I've ever met in crypto." And I said, "There's probably lots of us, we've just never gotten together." And then a week later, I got a call from Matt, and here we are today. So this conference is a powerful place. This conference is where salt and light will be seasoned and illumined for you. So, after this conference, engage online, link to people on LinkedIn, talk to them on Twitter and other social networks. Engage socially, work together, love together. To close, I encourage you over the next couple of days to continue to develop and apply your ethic of the common good, to fight the right enemies and to stay spiritually alert, praying, fasting, taking the sacraments, and to make the right friends, to join with the people here in talking about these subjects, in learning about these things, in preparing for this new technology to come into the world and the ways it could be used for the glory of Jesus and the church. And blessed may your blockchains be. Thank you very much.